everyone, Alex at Coram Deo Farm. Today I am starting seeds for one of our flower fields at our farm here in Northeast Oklahoma, Zone 7A. And what I am starting are all flowers that would be great for a cutting garden, whether for a flower farm for our summer bouquets, or if you just wanted to create a cutting garden in your landscape or a raised garden or by your veggies to attract all the good bugs and pollinators. So I wanted to bring you along on what I'm growing, how I'm sowing it, and maybe give you inspiration and confidence to grow some of these own flowers yourself. It is the first week of May, and all of the flowers that I'm starting today, I will start planting out towards the end of the month of May and the first week of June, because all of them need between 4 and 6 weeks of being started inside. But here's the kicker. All of the ones I am starting today could technically be direct sowed outside. So if you don't have a seed starting setup, or you don't really like starting seeds outside and you just want to direct sow them, you can do that with all of these flowers and just planting them directly out in your raised garden. And maybe this video will give you some inspiration on some varieties to choose. Maybe there's some colors or varieties you haven't tried before and you want to add them to your own cutting garden. I've got all my seeds here. All of my seeds in this caddy, this tote, is for our large raised garden. So it's largely vegetables and some smaller variety flowers. And then everything that's in this clear tote is for the flower farm. But again, a lot of these flowers I also plant in the raised garden. So I don't even know if me keeping them separate helps me all that much. But I want to pull out what I'm going to be sowing today. So first up, I'm going to be sowing some marigolds. I'm going to be sowing some zinnias, some cosmos, some celosia, and some gomphrena, and lastly, a little bit of basil. Like I said, everything I just showed you could be direct sowed outside in your garden. I choose to start them inside because I feel like I get better germination and I can better protect them from bug pressure and stuff that usually can happen either from like birds or bugs will like nibble on the young leaves and then the plant might die. And since I'm doing this for flower farming purposes, I want perfectly uniformed, all filled holes in the flower field versus in a raised garden or a landscape. It's okay if maybe there's some pockets or I have to re-sow a seed. That's fine. And I do that in the raised garden. I direct sow everything I just mentioned in my raised garden beds to enjoy them in that sense. But for the flower farm, commercial, efficient, minimize loss, I do it in trays. But let me go through the process. And as we go through each variety, I will tell you what I'm sowing and what the colors are and stuff of what I'm choosing, of what I think are really great choices amongst these varieties. I've got all my trays here. I am waiting right now. I've been tracking the FedEx driver and he's bringing me some more trays so that I can get it all done today. I had to order some more because so many others are being used right now. I needed more trays. But on the top here is I started some basil, and I don't know what my brain was thinking at the time, but I was thinking I didn't need a full tray. But I do need a full tray. So I'm going to fill this second half and sow some more basil in that. And it looks like I might have to re-sow some of these cells that just didn't give me great germination. So we got basil, and then I have 5 other trays to get filled and start. What I think I'm going to do for efficiency is fill them all with dirt first. The trays are full. If you notice, the trays I use look a little different than your average 72 count trays. My trays are from Bootstrap Farmer, and they are designed kind of in that off angle pattern to allow air pruning. So there's more air circulating around the root system than in your traditional trays, and it actually creates better, stronger, more robust roots in your little plug than some of the older traditional trays. They also are made in America, and they're really strong plastic construction instead of like the super cheap trays that I feel like I'm always cracking or are watering unevenly because they kind of like sit lopsided in the tray, and I've been loving them. They're more expensive, but quality often is more expensive. So first up, I'm going to do the basil tray. I'm going to sow the holes where I had bad germination, and then the second half of the tray, I'm going to get started on my basil. If I remember correctly, the half that is already germinated is lemon basil, and I actually don't know where. I don't know where my lemon basil seed packet is. It's not very good organization of me, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to be starting cinnamon basil. So I have Mrs. Burns lemon started, and I want to do cinnamon basil for my next succession because cinnamon basil smells like cinnamon, but also it has a purple flower that it sends up, and that's what I use to cut for filler in the bouquets. The basil itself is delicious, but I actually let it get bitter because it sends up the flower, and I cut it. So you, in your own cutting garden, could grow some basil for eating, and then you could also sow some other basil and let it go to flower and enjoy like, it's almost like a salvia plume, the flower that it sends up. So let's plant the cinnamon. Let's see, 1/4 inch deep, transplant 6 weeks later. Typically I push it and do 4 weeks. I don't wait the whole 6 weeks. But let's get this cinnamon basil in. What I do is I tend to, on the tiny seeds, I surface sow them, usually a couple if I have enough, a couple in each cell. And then I'll go through and gently press them into the soft seed starting soil and then lightly cover them up and water in at the end, especially since 1/4 inch deep is not very deep at all. Basil can be direct sowed outside once the soil is warmer. So if you still have some cold nights, I would hold off on basil. Oh yeah, I'm going to do these little empty cells. Try not to waste space. You can live with the lemon basil. I'm not picky. Probably can't see it on, you definitely probably can't see it on camera, but I can see the little seeds on top. Oop. One might have been like 1/2 inch. Sorry. Usually my soil starting mix is so loose enough that even just like rubbing my hand over it covers them up. I'm using vermiculite just to cover over top. It helps keep the surface moist so that the seeds can germinate, and I'm realizing I actually didn't do it on this side that didn't have as good of germination, so maybe getting this on there will help them out a little better. This stuff holds water well, but doesn't totally cover up the seed too much. Easy peasy. I'm going to water everything at the end, but basil's done. Next up is going to be gomphrena. Let me show you real fast. I have a field layout plan for all of my fields. I have 3 fields. This is our last one. These will bloom for my August, September, October customers for my bouquets. And so my color choice is based on when they're blooming. So I'm picking much darker, bolder colors when you're thinking about going back to school and fall and the leaves. You want a darker tone. You don't want like bubblegum pink and lavender like you kind of want now. You want orange and yellow and burgundy, that sort of thing. And this field plan helps me remember like what colors I'm going for, so I don't just restart seeds that I already have growing out in the field with my lighter colors. Let me look. I have QIS orange gomphrena that I'm going to do. And I think there's 50 seeds in there, and that's about the row that I'm going to do. Just checking if I had any extras in case I wanted to fill out my tray, which I don't like to waste. Yep. And then I have a purple, like a dark purple. So I got these from Johnny's in Baker Creek. So I'm going to do all of the orange seeds, and then the last bit in the tray, I'm going to pop in the purple mix, and then 72 should fill out my whole row there. And gomphrena will be done. Make sure I write my tag. Gomphrena orange and purple. I have like bubblegum pink and light purple going in the fields already. So this is my like later color filler. Ooh, this one is cover seeds lightly. So this is going to be surface sow and probably just my vermiculite going over the top. These seeds are much bigger. They're not as unwieldy as like a snapdragon. You can see these on the soil versus the basil. Again, this could be direct sowed. These get quite big. Well, I shouldn't say big. They don't get tall, but they get wide and they produce a ton of stems. My kids say they look like Dr. Seuss flowers, little palms on the top. It's a great filler or to just let bloom in the garden. I found that my gomphrena did not suffer from a lot of pest pressure. So if you're where like I'm at in Oklahoma and every single bug on the planet lives here, this is a really great choice if you don't want to deal with petals and leaves being like super munched on and fussed with. This was a really good choice. This would be a good like front border cut flower if you're creating a small cutting garden and you were doing it based on height. Gomphrena would be a good one to put in the front. Stays short and fat. Interesting. I might be able to fit this whole tray. My Johnny's packet said minimum 50 seeds. But it definitely looks like they were more generous. I love that. Orange will be a great fall filler color. Oh, I have 2 rows. Can I make it? Watch, there's just going to be like 2 dorky purples at the end. No, I think I can do it. Awesome! With like 9 left over. So I'm going to lightly press them in so they have contact with the soil, and then I'm going to cover with the vermiculite. So they're not too deep. Good contact with the soil so when the seed germinates, the roots start going right in. And this guy is done. See how fast this goes? You really start a lot of seeds. Now, if you didn't have trays, you didn't need 72 gomphrena. You could sow in little cups, little solo cups, stuff like that if you wanted, at a much smaller quantity. My kids say this makes it look like walnut brownies. It'll be a fun mess to pick up later. Gomphrina's done. Next up, we're chugging through 2 trays done, 4 to go. Next up is celosia. Celosia loves the heat. The bugs, if I'm remembering correctly, the bugs love to munch on the foliage, but didn't really fuss with the bloom itself all that much. So I left it. I thought it was fine. Wasn't bothering me too much. But let's see what I have. Okay, I have, these seeds are like microscopic. So it's like I can't even tell how many I have in the seed packet. Look, it has to come in a smaller seed packet. So I have Selway red, 100 seeds. So I definitely have enough for a full tray. But I want to see if there's any others I might want to start and kind of split the tray instead of starting a whole tray of just having red. Yes, I'm going to go half red, half Selway red, and half Pampas Plume celosia. Pampas Plume looks a little bit different than Selway, but this one's a mix. So I'm probably going to have, like, if I remember, oranges and yellows and pinks and reds, but it's like a tropical sunrise. They're really bold colors. They're not like what I already have started, which is rainbow sherbet. If you see that, it's like soft, peachy, lavender, coral, fuchsia. That's what's going now for my color palette, but we're going bold for fall. Half and half tray. Here we go. Next up, tray 4 is cosmos. Cosmos do really well direct sow. So if you're not a flower farmer, I wouldn't even think about starting them inside. Just direct sow them out past your frost. But I'm going with the trays because I don't want little bugs munching on my perfect little rows that I'm trying to form. But I'm going to be doing 2 types of cosmos, again, for my fall colors. So for fall colors, my choice is first is Rubenza. Rubenza is a really dark wine color. And then my other one is called Bright Lights. Bright Lights grows slightly different than the other cosmos you might have seen before, tried before. Their growth habit on the stems is a bit different. And what I noticed last year in my field is the cucumber beetles loved the petals of your standard cosmos like Rubenza and Double Click and Versailles. Your ones that you recognize when you say cosmos, like the pinks, the whites, that sort of thing. They didn't touch the Bright Lights very much. I don't know why, but I was able to, it kind of saved my bacon at one point when cucumber beetles were like taking over my life, is I could go to the Bright Lights and still get some really nice airy filler for the bouquets. So I'm actually planting more Bright Lights this year than some of the other ones because the cucumber beetles just, if I didn't harvest fast enough, they would just shred my poor cosmos. So Rubenza and Bright Lights for the fall. Two more left. We have zinnias and marigolds left. Next, I'm going to do zinnias. Zinnias I'm probably going to be sowing over the next couple days when I get more trays from Bootstrap because I'm going to have more than just like 1 or 2 varieties. And I think let me look at my list. I have 3 rows. So I have 90 feet of zinnias to do. So I'm going to need way more than 1 tray. I'm probably going to need like 5 or 6 trays with a bunch of different colors. But I'm still going to tell you what colors I am going to do overall. So first up is the classic OG Bennery's Giant Mix. Bennery is the biggest zinnia you can grow. It's the ones that have huge 5-6 inch blooms. The mix is wonderful, especially if you're not growing 90 feet of zinnias or you don't necessarily want to commit to like 1 or 2 different colors. Get the mix. You can enjoy all of them. So definitely Giant. And then I'm going to be doing a Queenie Lemon Peach. Queenie Lemon Peach, a Queen Lime Orange. You can see how it has orange, green, yellow, red, all those tones that like scream fall to me. And then let me look. Oh, I mentioned how in the mix you can get all sorts of colors, but because I'm doing so many zinnias, I want to make sure that I'm getting certain colors that might, in that mix, it might be like red dominant or purple dominant or something like that. And I want to make sure I have some particular colors. And so I bought Bennery's Giant Orange, like just on its own, so that I know that I have the orange colors that I want. And then, so that's, oh gosh, I have a lot of zinnias. I'm going to have so many trays. Then I also have Bennery's Giant Wine, which is a purpley red that would come in the mix, but I want to make sure I have enough of that. I have Bennery's Deep Red, so orange, deep purple, red, screaming fall to me. I have a Queen formula mix, which I might not use. I might have enough Queen. Maybe I'll do this in the raised garden. The Queen Lime series of zinnias is so unique. Most people have seen the Bennery's, or at least like an Oklahoma Zinnia, the Oklahoma series, but it's very rare that people know when you say like Queen Lime, especially for people with personal cut flower gardens. So if you want to grow like a super tall and huge zinnia, get some Bennery's, but then also track down from Baker Creek or Johnny's a Queen Lime. And like all your friends and people are going to be like, oh my gosh, what's that? I've never seen like a two-tone zinnia before. It is Queen Lime. Then I have Queen Red Lime. And because we're in Oklahoma, I have to at least grow a couple zinnias from the Oklahoma series. And I have Oklahoma Carmine, which is a deep fuchsia purple color. So yellow, red, orange, two-tone with a limey, queeny punch, and then fuchsia. Perfect for fall. What am I going to start today though? That's the question, because I said I'm going to do a million trays and I have at least one tray to do here. My heart is telling me to do the Queen series. My brain is telling me to do one of the Bennery's. I will do Giant Wine and Deep Red. My two least favorite colors. Why not? That makes sense. Let's do that. So Giant Wine and Giant Red are getting started today, and then over this course of the week, I'm going to set a goal to sow all the rest of my zinnias to make sure they get going, because zinnias are like the staple of my cutting garden and flower farm. Last up, now that I've done my zinnias, last up is marigolds. When I first started learning cut flowers, growing cut flower garden, well before the flower farm idea came about, when I thought of marigolds, I thought you go to the nursery and you have like the little stubby 5-inch tall African marigolds that you like plant around your tomatoes and pray bugs don't eat them. But there's a whole other world of cutting marigolds that get really tall. I'm talking like 4 or 5 feet tall with nice long stems, big palm-like flowers. And that's what I'm growing for the flower farm, is the big marigolds, not the dinky like for landscape and bedding and in containers, that kind of marigolds. So let's look. I'm doing a whole row of marigolds if I have enough seeds, and I'll tell you the 2 varieties I'm going to do. I already have a row out in the field. Okay, I'm going to do marigold cocoa. Let's try that again. Marigold cocoa gold. I'm going to do as many in a tray as I can of the cocoa gold, and then I will finish out the tray with what I grew last year, which is from Baker Creek, and it's called Cracker Jack Mix. So it's a couple different colors. If you want inexpensive seeds with free shipping and a good amount of choices for your cutting garden, go with Baker Creek. If you want a very particular type of marigold, Johnny's is where to go. So here we go. And the names are obvious. Cocoa Gold. It's going to be a gold colored marigold. Huh, oh, get it? Marigold, gold. That's funny. That's probably where they got the name from. These are bigger seeds, like a Cosmo. Let's see how far. See how far I can get. Ideally, I'd like to be able to do one whole tray of just the gold and then deal with Cracker Jack on another day. I ended up having enough for my marigold tray by one. I had one extra that I popped in the cell. So I have a whole tray of cocoa gold, which is really exciting. I'm excited to grow that one because I've heard so many positive things about it. Now that all the seeds are sowed, I need to get them watered in well. I need to give them a really deep soak, which I can do here at my sink. And then once they've been watered in, soaked in, I'm going to put them in their trays and then get them going where they're going to live, in the rack. So all the seeds are started, they're in their flat trays, they're watered in, and they're in their home for the next month in my second grow rack here. But I wanted to show you an update on what things are looking like that I'd already started. I want to say I'm looking at my dates 2-ish weeks ago, and you can see the growth. On the top rack on 420, I started a tray of Benary's giant zinnias. So these guys have about 2 more weeks. I'm probably going to upgrade them to living outside here pretty soon because our weather is really beautiful and they could just live outside and acclimate super fast. In my second row, I have 2 trays of sunnies. Every single week I start 2 trays of sunnies, so I always have a succession of them growing on the farm. And these guys I started last week. It's Monday. I start on Monday. So these guys were a Monday ago. So they're not fully open. There's still some cells. I almost get 100% germination. So there's still some cells here that probably still have to crack. Once all of the sunflowers look like this, they're up and open and drop the seed, I will move them outside and they will live outside until they're ready to transplant into the ground. So I have 2 trays of orange Excel sunflowers. Down here I have 2 trays of sunnies. I started these guys in soil blocks, ran out of room in the field for snapdragons. So I've up potted them and they're going to live in bigger trays until they can be planted out in this third field that I was talking about today. So I'm hoping these guys can live here maybe 2 more weeks. They have enough room in their roots to live in these for about 2 more weeks and then they can go in the third field. And then lastly on my grow rack, I have very, very, very leggy watermelons that I forgot about on the heat mat and needed to get them under lights. And these guys are scarlet runner beans and hyacinth bean. I'm just going to let them go. I know they're leggy and I could start over, but here we are. I'll plant them a little deeper and I think they'll recover because they're a watermelon and those guys are tough. So that's almost everything I grow in the summer for our flower farm that would make a great cutting garden. All of these flowers live outside, full 10+ hours sun in the middle of the Oklahoma prairie. and they do great for us with drip irrigation, proper watering, but they love the heat. They do well in the heat. They more or less survive the bugs, except for the zinnias. Sometimes you got to stand the cucumber beetles. I think all of these that I started today could be a great choice for you if you wanted to start small on a cutting garden, or if you have bigger space and you were looking for more varieties to try, all of the above. But at the end of the day, I think you should grow more flowers.